Hi everyone, Rob Harmon from DSC and Qualsys, representing our Canadian team for our second Canasa Virtual Trade Show. This is June 2021, and we did one back in December of 2020, which was great. A lot of great attendance at the booth, and a lot of people tuned into our virtual training session. And if you're here today at our training session, we greatly appreciate your support. Your attendance at these things is what makes it all worthwhile. And I know your time's important, and you're tuning into what we have to say. So we greatly appreciate you joining us. Also, a special thanks to the entire team over at Canasa. I know that Patrick's and Steve and Anita's and a lot of those Canasa members do a great job of creating awareness and driving attendance to events like this. So we greatly appreciate it. Thank you. The December show, we covered off a lot of great content, if I do say so myself. We talked about the new Connect 24 DSC communicator with Bell SIM cards in it. A very big deal for the Canadian market. We talked about our Power Series Pro, the latest and greatest with Qualsys and some advancements there. Online resource, we covered those off, m.dsc.com, live chat for both brands, as well as some Qualsys training videos, which are great. Our new hardwire to Power G module was covered, and some existing Power G devices or some new Power G devices that have come to market. So if you haven't seen it, I recommend giving it a watch, but we're going to try not to focus on that today. So if you want to give that a watch, just go to YouTube and search Rob Harmon DSC, and Harmon spelled Harman, Rob Harmon DSC. A 20-minute video, and you can watch it at any time. But we want to make sure if you're joining our session today, we're not wasting your time by duplicating information. So today, we're going to try and focus on all new stuff, all new product releases, as well as enhancements to our existing product. Talk about a brand new product that's out at the market, and then cover off a couple Power G devices that I want to make sure everybody's aware of. So let's take a look exactly what we're going to cover. As mentioned, we're going to try and focus on keeping everything new. So although you see the existing hardwire to Power G module, there was a big software update with a powerful feature that came with that update that's now available. So I want to make sure you're aware of that. The DSC Cantech integration, a big software update there, and delivered a bunch of features that people have been asking for. So we'll cover that off. The IQ Wi-Fi, by the time this video comes out, it definitely should be on the shelves in distribution. Something we've been beta testing for a very long time, and we're very excited about what it does, and the feedback we're getting is awesome. So super excited about that. The IQ water valve, make sure you're fully aware of just how that works and what it means and how to order it, because we have a couple different ways to order that product. The IQ Panel 4, I left it mysterious with a question mark because that's kind of really a big drive for this presentation today, and we're very excited about that. Probably going to be available in July at some point. And then lastly, we're going to cover off some Power G sensors, some of my favorite, like the outdoor camera motion, the temp sensor, the flood sensors, and kind of how those operate and how specifically how they work with alarm.com. So that's what we're covering off today, and let's get right into it. Before we jump into content, I always like to make sure you're fully aware of who your Canadian team is and where they're located and what they do. So we got an awesome team, a great combination of technical and sales representatives across the country. We'll start left to right. So out of Vancouver, Mr. Kevin Hinks, who is our sales manager for Western Canada, located out of Vancouver. Scott Dry, one of our newer hires out of Calgary, doing the technical account management for Western Canada. In Ontario, Jowie Wing, sales manager for Ontario, and Adriana Pong, technical account management for Ontario, both located in Toronto. With myself, I'm also located outside Toronto. In Eastern Canada, we got Chris Hollins, who's our sales manager for the East, and Mr. Pierre Vachon, also in Montreal, technical account management for Eastern Canada. In Toronto, we also have Aaron Parr, who's our strategic account manager for Canada, and last but not least, Mr. Neil Jones out of Edmonton, who's our director of strategic accounts and the technical account management team. So that's your Canadian team. A lot of experience, a lot of knowledge in alarm.com and DSC and Qualsys, and we're here to help. So if there's anything you need, please let us know. We'll gladly pick up the phone and set up trainings or whatever you need, you let us know. First out of the gate is the software integration to Cantech and DSC, and the software update that Cantech put through in May for their Entrepass. Version 8.3, I believe I got that right, and I'm saying all the terms correctly. But what that means is now they fully support the Power Series Pro. If you're talking about our 32 zone panel, 128 or 248 zone panel on the Pro, all three are supported, meaning that up to 248 zones, up to 32 keypads, up to 32 partitions. So very, very exciting that now it's fully supported. As well, with this software update came a very big software feature that people were waiting for, and that is virtual keypad support for Power Series Pro and Power Series Neo. So we apologize it took so long, but we're very happy to tell you that it is available now. It's important to mention that you need corporate or global software. It doesn't work on special edition software, so corporate or global. But basically, anything you can do from a DSC keypad, you can do from this Cantech virtual keypad. So most common things maybe are bypassing user code management, acknowledge troubles, programming changes. So anyway, all that stuff is there, and it's finally available, and it's in that software update. I know we mentioned that we wanted to keep everything new today, but I want to make sure everybody had a foundation of what exactly the IQ PowerG hardwire module it is. So you're allowed to have 2 of these per IQ Panel 2 Plus. Each module supports 8 hardwire zones and 4 outputs. Been around a long time and had a lot of people say, hey, it would be great if we had a wireless zone expander or a wireless output board. Well, now you do, but it's PowerG, so it gives you the best of both and that crazy range of PowerG. A neat thing about this to make sure you're aware of, the industry's only one that supports life safety devices. So if you're going to a site where you're upgrading them, they've got existing serviceable smoke detectors or COs or gas, we have the ability to use those on this module as well. One of the big features that the IQ PowerG hardwire delivers is the flexibility. So no matter what site you're going out to upgrade, you have the ability to bring one module, and if it's 319, 345, or 433, you have the ability to use that IQ PowerG hardwire module on all 3 of those Qualsys panels. One thing to keep in mind is that if you have a 319 Qualsys panel, you can also use the 319 Qualsys translators as well, and you can have a mix and match of the PowerG version plus the S-Line version up to the panel max of 128 zones, all hardwired. All right, back to the new stuff. We did spend a couple slides covering off the IQ PowerG hardwire, but I want to make sure everybody was aware of what that is. But we're now back at the IQ PowerG hardwire, but we're talking about the latest software update to the Qualsys panel and what that means to this module. So version 2.6 of the Qualsys panel now supports the IQ PowerG hardwire. I think we got to figure out a better way to say that because it takes a long time every time. It now supports 2 hardwire keypads, Neo-style hardwire keypads per module. So it's the HS2 LCD or the Icon version. Doesn't support touchscreens, doesn't support a keypad with a receiver built into it. It's the full LCD keypads or the Icons. You can put 2 of these on per module, giving you a total of 4 keypads per site. So you think about the flexibility. If you had a panel, maybe a keypad at the front door, your Qualsys can take that over and make that the keypad location. We have a keypad at your back door, maybe in a residential application, back door, maybe one upstairs in the bedroom. You now have the ability to use those, that hardwire and that technology, and put some keypads on there, or just use the existing keypads if they're already there in their Neo. But you think of commercial and residential applications, a lot of them have that hardwire technology there. You can leverage those wire runs and put a couple keypads. Important to note, like I mentioned, the Qualsys panel needs to be version 2.6 or higher. And if you're not running the latest software version of the IQ PowerG hardwire, it needs to be that. So if you have any questions on how to do that, please reach out to your local DSC Qualsys representative, and we'll walk you through that process and provide you the documentation. These 2 PowerG devices, although not new, they've had some advancements with the Alarm.com platform over the last year or 2. So we're talking about the outdoor PowerG camera motion, as well as the PowerG temp sensor. And the reason I like them is talking to different dealers over the years and having to tackle these applications with hardwire versions of this. PowerG combined with what Alarm.com now provides make it a much stronger and more effective solution when tackling these applications. A lot of different examples going on in this picture, but literally there could be thousands of different things people want to peek in on and take a look and make sure it's still there and protect. Whether you got a Ski-Doo, a boat, a motorcycle, or an animal, you could have a farm or a barn with a bunch of different animals. You just want to peek in to make sure everybody's doing okay. Whether it's a stock yard or a construction yard, maybe you got a whole bunch of vehicles on there, or tractors, or just crazy applications. The outdoor motions are spec for -40. You pull out your Alarm.com app, request image. It takes about 2 to 3 minutes for that image to get to the app, but you can peek in at any time just to make sure your things are okay. And also, if the system's armed, you could have somebody walking in front of it, or an animal or a person walking in front of it, and it trips it going into alarm, sends those pictures to the app so the end user can view it. It could, if you want, also go to the central station for alarm verification. Taking a look at my house as an example, and I also like to point out that we always downplay the quality. It's not there to pick up eye color. It's there to simply, is it a person in my backyard that's not supposed to be? And I also want to point out, this doesn't replace an Alarm.com camera with their analytics. That's a way better solution. And if you got Wi-Fi signal, that's the way you go. But if you've got a place where you can't get power or you can't get Wi-Fi signal strength out there, this is a great solution. So I can pull it up at any time, peek in and take a look. And yes, both my barbecues are still there, and that's something I want to make sure is still there as well. But I also have a couple Alarm.com cameras, so I just have this set up for demo purposes. And just like the PowerG outdoor camera motion, with the PowerG temp sensor, you could probably have 1,000 different pictures on the screen showing all the different applications you're able to tackle. From a draft machine where you want to make sure the temperature is set right or you're going to have a ton of spillage and wastage. Commercial fridges and freezers where you want to make sure the produce doesn't expire. Hot tubs and pools and wine cellars. There's tons of different applications depending on what the client's needs are. And this has always been there for Neo and with Qualsys. You always had the ability to do this. But what's new with Alarm.com is you have the ability to see those temperatures and set those temperatures on your phone. So for example, you got it hooked up to a draft machine there, 3.5 degrees. And you got it hooked up to a pool, you're seeing it's around 20-degree temperature in the pool. So nice, quick, easy snapshot. Alarm.com also allows you to set those thresholds as well as set a high or low. So a lot of flexibility, a lot of applications you're able to pick up with this PowerG temp sensor. And that brings us to the IQ Wi-Fi. It is something we are very excited about. It's become pretty evident. It's been evident for a while, following the different industry Facebook groups and talking to different dealers across North America, the struggle that Wi-Fi is providing for a number of reasons, whether it's poor coverage or an end user changing their internet provider, adding a new router, or making network changes or unplugging repeaters. There's a lot of different variables that significantly affect our devices, such as Wi-Fi cameras and Wi-Fi touchscreens. And we wanted to be able to develop something and we got great confidence that this is going to be able to help you get better control. End game is to give the customer a better experience with the products you sell them and to significantly reduce the chance of a truck roll. So we're confident we're going to be able to help out with a lot of that, and let's take a look at some of the reasons why. Taking a quick look at some of the main features, right out of the gates coverage. The coverage is great. They say it's spec for about 1,500 square feet. In a typical home, you'd be looking at 2, possibly 3. If you put 3 of these in a typical home, you're going to have phenomenal coverage for all those devices outside the walls of the home. Being able to easily pick up the cameras in the backyard, maybe your driveway cam, your doorbell cam, easily pick those up. But if you get applications that are even more challenging, a really large house or a larger commercial application, you have the ability to add 7 total satellites. So you have your main unit plus 7 satellites. It is important to remember that it's one part number, it's one unit. They're all identical, whether you're bringing one main unit and 7 satellites or 1 and 3. It's one part number. It makes it easier to prepare for an installation if you only have one part number. The second thing, it's a mesh network. That's another big advantage as well. You don't need to know where this is going to be located on the premise to understand which network it has to be enrolled to. It's one SSID or one network name, and that's what it connects to no matter where it is on the premise. That kind of leads into our self-healing or adaptive path, just like on PowerG. No matter where it is in the location, it's always going to find the best path, and the devices are going to make sure that like, for example, if a customer has a touchscreen working in the family room, but he wants to take it up to the bedroom or they want to take it to the basement, no matter where it is in the premise, it's always connected to that one network. It's not dependent on repeaters and having to connect to different locations across the house. And same with the camera. If they've got a camera in the front of the business, but they want to move it to the back to be able to pick something else up, they don't need to learn it into different networks each time they move it. So self-healing, adaptive path. And easy installations. All of this can be done from a Qualsys IQ2 panel, plus the new panels that are going to be coming to market. Everything from adding networks, like adding guest networks, changing passwords, hiding the network. All the configuration can be done via the panel. And if you don't have a Qualsys panel and maybe you have a Neo or you have no panel at all of this can be done easily from a web interface. The IQ Wi-Fi is positioned to give you flexibility. You have the ability, if you want, to be able to give the customer a better Wi-Fi experience for their home or business for everything, not just their security devices, but also for their streaming and their web conferencing. You have the ability to do that. Or you can, as we discussed earlier, you can keep it just for the security devices like your Wi-Fi touchscreens and your Wi-Fi cameras. The IQ Wi-Fi has the ability to have 3 networks, 1 main, 1 guest, and 1 security. All 3 can be hidden, all 3 can be visible, or you can pick one to be visible and one not to be. Really gives you that flexibility. It is also important to mention it does both 2.4 and 5 gigahertz frequencies as well. I've been testing the IQ Wi-Fi in my house for a while now, and I know a lot of the Canadian team have been doing the same, as well as the beta users. The reviews have all been great. It's going to really help out with a lot of those Wi-Fi challenges that we're experiencing. I thought I would do a side-by-side comparison. I think my house is probably similar to a lot of people out there. I got a Nighthawk Netgear router down in the basement, as well as two Nighthawk repeaters on either end of the house to pick up the outdoor cameras. Obviously, the one thing to point out here is that it's right now, if I was pulled out my phone, it's going to be three different networks. So if I have a camera at the front of the house, I've got to connect to that. If I've got a camera at the back, it's going to have to connect to the different extender. But I also use these for my kids. They're up in their bedrooms doing their online schooling, and they had been using these extenders to be able to connect, and the performance wasn't great. And obviously, we wanted to see how the IQ Wi-Fi stacked up to that. So again, I had one right beside the Nighthawk router down in the basement, and I had one beside each repeater in the front and the back of the house. And the feedback from the kids has been way better experience in their room on as far as streaming and doing their video conferencing. And again, it's one mesh network, one SSID or network name, no matter where you are in the house. Where before, if my son was doing his homework up in his room on his computer, he would bring it down to the kitchen, we'd work on it, he'd have to connect to the repeater at the back of the house. So really improves a lot of things. And let's take a look at some of the speed differences as well. I ran that test. To do a true speed test, I thought I'd go to the farthest room in the house that's farthest away from the main router down in the basement. That's my son's room. And as you can see, the upload and download speeds between the two is quite a big difference. So we've got it set up for everything in the house so he can view the Netflix and YouTube and do his video conferencing off the IQ Wi-Fi. His quote is, it's way better than what he had before, way better. He was complaining a lot before. I have zero complaints now about any issues or glitches or it freezing. So he's a happy man, and we've seen very similar performances out of all of our alarm.com cameras and touchscreens and things like that. So pretty big difference. That brings us to the IQ water valve, another new product for us. With the significant increase in frequency of water damage claims and the significant increase in value per claim, we definitely see this helping with that need. And just basically the goal of reducing the chance of having to pay that deductible or the chance of actually causing any large-scale damage due to water. Some of the main features, it's affordable, so it's more cost-effective than some of the alternative solutions out in the marketplace. Secondly, it is very easy to install. No plumber required. As long as you have a standard quarter-turn ball valve style valve, you can easily install it in under 5 minutes. All you have to do is locate power. And again, no plumber required. That's a pretty big deal. It also provides automatic shutoff. So if you're integrated into a Qualys panel or a Neo panel or Alarm.com, you have the ability to set those rules in place where you've got those different points in a house or a business or an apartment where if they detect water, it automatically shuts the water off. You can also integrate it with an Alarm.com thermostat, so if it gets to a certain temperature, you can say if it reaches 10 degrees, shut the water valve off before the pipes are freezing. And same thing with our PG temp sensors that we covered earlier. It is important to note that you'll be able to control it from the Alarm.com app and shut that water off remotely. Just making sure you know how to order these. We've released these water valves with two kits, one with 3 S-line contacts and one with 2 Power G contacts. The exact same price, but they are in kit form for now. We will eventually release them on their own. I would suggest if you did call into distribution a month or two ago and ask for pricing on this, I would suggest calling back. We've just recently added them to the SPA pricing library, so the pricing is much more competitive than you may have been quoted before. Saving the best for last, we thought we'd give you a quick sneak peek of the IQ Panel 4. This is the latest addition in the IQ line of panels. This is going to be our flagship panel going forward. If you're familiar with the IQ 2 Plus, we're giving you everything you've got there, all that experience, all that technology, but giving you a whole bunch more. We've learned a lot since we launched the IQ Panel 1. When that came out a bunch of years ago, listening to how it's installed, the end user experience, and just different features. We've learned a lot, and we've put that all into the IQ Panel 4. Taking a quick look at just a few of the features that separate the IQ Panel 4 from the IQ Panel 2. It's using a Qualcomm Snapdragon chipset just like before, but it's one with twice the processing power as the 2. It's running on that Android 9 operating platform. We also put an 8 megapixel camera in there, so a better camera, but we also provided it with a tilt. So we're hearing of more and more social distance selling or do-it-together installations where these panels are getting mounted on a countertop or a front hall table. And when it takes a picture of a disarm or an alarm event or a peek-in, it's taking a picture of the ceiling. So you're able to tilt that camera to take pictures of the events that you want to take pictures of. One of the hot button issues talking to different dealers across North America and listening to social media is the sound wasn't what people were hoping for. So before we had 2 side-facing speakers, now we have 4 front-facing speakers. The sound quality between the 2 and the 4 is night and day. So listen for that when it comes out to the market. We showed you on the last screen it had a white bezel. This one has the black bezel, so you're going to have that option of black or white bezel. Give the customer that option, or you can choose which one you want to sell and market. Again, another feedback from the field and feedback from those social media groups is the difficult to close backplate on the IQ Panel 2. When you're doing your first one, you had to watch a video on how to snap it together. So we've taken that away. We've made it a lot easier, and the snapping of the backplates is a lot more simple now than it was before. Dual SRF. Just wanted to make sure that you're aware that, again, we're still keeping Power G as your main SRF, but we're giving you the option to have either 319, 345, or 433 in there as well. Taking a look at the two table stand options. On the top picture there, you have your standard table stand, but the IQ Panel 4, a big part of the progression was the sound and making sure that you had some really neat sound options. So we now have the ability to have a Bluetooth speaker. It's called Bass Speaker. You're able to connect via Bluetooth and play music, and for future updates, we're going to have some neat software integrations where it really opens up the possibilities of what that Bluetooth speaker can do. So those are your table stand options, and that's it for the IQ Panel 4 for now. Well, that's it for the presentation. We greatly appreciate you spending time with us. If you have any questions, we'd love to see you at the booth and discuss in greater detail. Have a great day, and thank you.